So, the translations are out for My Hero Academia Manga chapter 394, and let's just say that this is going to be a very touching and emotional conclusion to the end of Uraraka versus Toga, and we'll get right into it, but first, right after this. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy, Manga Man Drew, and I'm here to do my manga review for My Hero Academia Manga Chapter 394, titled Ochako Uraraka vs. Himiko Toga. And yes, with the name of this title and what we get in this chapter, this seems to be, at the very least, the end of the actual battle between Uraraka as well as Toga. And let's just say that this chapter ends with something that is very not common in battles in shonen manga, where it ends in an actual conversation between the characters. Not just one character being convinced, but an actual dialogue and understanding, as well as a little explanation for what's going on with the certain characters within the story, but also really just showing how certain characters, specifically Toga and Uraraka, has grown and developed over the entire series. So let's dive right into the review proper and talk more about this chapter. And actually, before we have to do that, we have to talk about the fact that, once again, My Hero Academia has been in shonen manga for 9 years, as we have a double-page color spread of all of the characters from Class 1A and their most current appearance in the celebration of the fact that they have been in the series for 9 years, where we get to see that Kota has his horns opened up, as well as we get to see Mina isn't discolored, but we get to see that Shoji actually isn't wearing his mask, and for once we're actually seeing Hagekure that is not invincible, so that's great to see, as well as we get to see All Might in the background with his back away from the class. Oh, that is not a good sign that All Might is going to be living after this arc. Oh no. But getting into the bulk of it, also apparently we are not going to be getting a poll for this year. Sadness is really what this chapter is all about, because it's the conclusion between Uraraka and Toga, and how this entire first part of the chapter is just trying to understand what's going on with Uraraka, and how Toga comes to the conclusion that, oh, this is like what happened when I was fighting Curious. She doesn't explicitly say it, but she understands that this is a quirk awakening. And even other characters, specifically Kamui Woods as well as Tiger, come to a realization that, oh my gosh, this girl has grown over the past year, as we see Tiger being so proud of her since the summer training camp. So it's great that we're able to get some character interactions with Tiger, really just showing how much Uraraka has grown, not just as a person, but also as an actual hero, being able to lift what we're assuming is multiple thousands of tons of Toga Twice clones, as well as other heroes, as we get Kamui Woods holding Tiger to the ground and not floating away. And as we see that they are floating in the air, Uraraka declares how she wants to touch Toga, and she fires off her hook, wrapping around her. And from here, we get something very interesting within the manga panels, where it seems as if as they are having a conversation, they seem to be like spinning and rotating in the air, as Uraraka is trying to get closer and closer to Toga. And as they are whipping around, you just have Uraraka explaining to Toga pretty much who she is, how she came from a poor family, and all she wanted to do was see her parents smile, which is why she decided to be a hero. And she doesn't say this, but it's implied to also in turn make money to make her parents happy. But then she began to realize that when she grew older, that everyone needed a hero, and that during this time of growth, she fell in love with Izuku Midoriya, and right now wants to stop you, referring to Toga. This is pretty much the entire representation of Uraraka's character development so far. Her coming to a realization that her version of heroics, and we're going to get expanded upon a little bit more, is seeing people smile and an actual want to help people, because that is what heroes do. But also that her crush on Izuku Midoriya is also something that defines her, which is confirmation that she does like or love Deku. And this is the love confession that we've been waiting for a while to come out of Uraraka's mouth, and it makes thematic sense that it happens with Toga, not only because Uraraka is sort of the apple of the eye of Toga, but so is Deku in respects to Toga as well. And this could, in theory, be a true love triangle. And while this isn't explicitly stating that this is Ochoko Uraraka origins, it kind of is by her declaring that this is who she is and that she is here, or I'm here. A phrase that we kind of know from one of the best and #1 heroes, All Might. But even as she gives her heart to Toga at this moment and expressing the expression of love that she's been holding on so long to, Toga is still unyielding, attacking Uraraka with slashes as they are spinning in midair as she's trying to slash at her, punching her in the face potentially. Uraraka screams at Toga to just tell her everything and tell her what she is thinking right now, which is kind of what we saw with Endeavor when he was talking to Dabi in that moment. And as Toga is about to stab into Uraraka, as we just get an entire bunch of panels of Toga's life up until this point, we get the imagery of the monster that she believes that people see her as, stabbing but halting at a tiny Uraraka as she begins to break down crying and really explain who Toga is and expressing her feelings. She says that she falls in love easily and that animals, villains, heroes, boys, girls, that she all finds them beautiful because of the blood that is flowing through their veins. And this is shocking to Uraraka, and we finally get explaining of what happened with Saito, the boy that resembles Deku and really caused Toga to fall in love with Deku because of him looking like Saito. Because she explains that she was jealous of seeing other people smile, which makes sense because she only smiles when she's in love and also consuming the blood of the people that she loves. And she explains that she killed Saito and that the reasoning why is because she wanted to ask him if she could drink his blood, but she knew his response would be that no, because you're not human, you're a monster, and that he would say that she's the opposite of cute. She couldn't handle that rejection, so she killed Saito, most likely in that fit of just emotional overwhelming her. And how she declares that she was afraid that Uraraka as well as Deku would say the exact same thing. And that the only people that ever truly loved her and saw her and allowed her to live the way that she wanted was the League of Villains. And she is about to stab into Uraraka one more time, but this time she misses and catches into Uraraka's embrace. And then you just have Uraraka coming to a realization that, oh, yeah, no, this is very apparent and I just didn't see it. To which we also have Toga, or specifically the Twice costume that was covering her, beginning to fade away as she begins to realize that Jin-kun's blood is running out and that it's almost up and that Jin-kun is going to be gone forever and that he's going to disappear. But as that is all happening, we also get to see the other Toga clones and the other Twices beginning to fade away as well. And this pretty much concludes the idea that even though Toga was drinking the blood of Twice, she did not get an exact replication of Twice's abilities. Because even if Twice were to make a clone, they wouldn't just disappear into dust without taking substantial damage. And we just have the final part of the chapter just being Uraraka consoling Toga, saying that, yeah, I think I know what's going on. Even though you're covered in wounds, like, I also understand looking up to someone like that, and that she understands fully that she's not going to be able to replace the League of Villains, but that she had to tell Toga that she had a beautiful smile, to which Toga finally responds with, oh, really? I do? And then Uraraka just says yes. And as Uraraka says that she's the cutest in the world, Toga asked that to her. And this final double page spread of Toga smiling and just the dust in the air just looks amazing. So yeah, it's time to finish up this review with my conclusion of the chapter. it was fantastic. Even as I was doing this review, I was just welling up with all of these emotions because this is the conclusion that the fight between Toga and Uraraka was just building to. Them having a conversation, them talking, and Uraraka treating Toga not like a villain, but as a person. And to a lesser extent, a therapist, but all in all, this is kind of a core theme for My Hero Academia. The heroes trying to understand the villains, trying to blur that line between being evil, being a villain, and being a person, because no matter if you're evil or a villain, you're always still going to be a person, and every person deserves a shred of dignity and respect because we are all humans, and all humans do deserve respect, do deserve to be treated as if they are people. And while in this chapter and throughout this fight, those actions are not condoned and may never be forgiven, they still deserve what all humans deserve. The freedom to be themselves to a certain extent and not be repressed by society just because they do not fit the norms, especially when those differences are not harmful in the slightest. Because what this chapter is showing is that Toga, who by this definition of what she said in this chapter is definitely a part of the LGBTQ plus community, her experiences, from my understanding, seem to not differ that much from those who have experienced the type of discriminatory actions or forced upon them similar to those who are a part of that community. And how her and her love of blood could be seen as taboo as people who are gay, who love people of the same sex. And that due to just the state of their world, and because of this may be a not realistic depiction of how people in that community may feel in our real world, but it is symbolic in many ways. And we cannot ignore that because, once again, Toga is canonically a character that does fall under the purview of the LGBTQ plus community. But overall, I just really love what this chapter does for both of these female characters, really showing that Toga is a lot more than just this stabby I love you kind of character, a yandere or a tsundere, and how Uraraka is more than just, quote, a love interest. She does love Deku, which is confirmed in this chapter. That's gonna be very toxic on Twitter, but besides the point, her love for Deku and her love for being a hero was always core aspects of Uraraka, as well as the idea of saving people and seeing them smile, which we get heavily in the prior war and even when she was trying to save Deku. But overall, with this chapter, we just see the accumulation of everything that Horikoshi has set up with these characters come to fruition, and I think that it was done beautifully. Also, let's talk a little bit more about her quirk awakening, and that's something very interesting because we see that it can affect people even when Toga was using Twice's quirk to double herself. It seems as if the actual bubbles, which I assumed was just pure sweat, is what is responsible for allowing for these Toga clones to actually begin to float, and that it has expanded her ability to float to be more than 3 tons. So this is just showing how much Uraraka has grown and developed, and that her quirk awakening is something that we would have probably an entire video to talk about, but it's just so strong that it can literally lift mountains without her having to touch every single person, and many of the characters within the series noticed that. But yeah, that was something cool, and I can't wait to see if we're going to get more of that later on in the story. And yeah, that's pretty much all I really have to say on the topic. But let me ask you this. What did you think of the chapter? Do you think that this chapter fully redeems Toga as a character and as a person, or do you think that she still has to face the consequences of her action? And do you think that the thematics of this fight really are shown brightly within Uraraka, or do you have other opinions on this chapter? Leave your thoughts down below. I would really love to read them, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you want to see more content like this. Do all that cool jazz, and hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye!